All right, this is Block 8, Pax Americana. Section 4 will be like Ike with the section Eisenhower's Politics. Eisenhower is a moderate Republican who accepts the outlines of the New Deal. Now, this is a very important idea, that from 1932 on, the Republican Party had always been trying to fight back against Roosevelt's New Deal. That that Alf Landon ran against it in 1936, Wilkie in 1940, Dewey in 44 and 48, had all run against the expansion of government power in Roosevelt's New Deal. Eisenhower accepts the New Deal, and that meant that most of the Republican Party accepted the New Deal. And once both parties accept something as major as the New Deal, that pretty much meant that the New Deal was here to stay. That the Republican Party in 1952 was no longer arguing that the New Deal should be rolled back. So the first thing that Eisenhower does when he's elected president is cements FDR's New Deal. That the Republican Party is no longer going to be trying to get rid of it. Something very similar happened when Bill Clinton did not work to overturn Ronald Reagan's policies. That the Democratic Party was in the same boat as the Republican Party concerning things like taxation when Bill Clinton was elected in 1992. The first Republican president that accepts President Obama's health care law will cement President Obama's health care law as a part of the American political landscape. So the first thing that Eisenhower does is he brings the Republican Party into acceptance, if not agreement, with Roosevelt's New Deal. Eisenhower, after that, prefers to kind of preside broadly over the course of American society. In an era of peace and of relative peace and prosperity, Eisenhower is not going to do much in the way of rocking the boat. He proposes some new legislation, but nothing like the New Deal or even the Fair Deal. And he proceeds to pretty much let American society run its course, all the while working hard to protect American society from nuclear bombs, from the Cold War turning hot. He's seen by most Americans as a kindly, grandfather-like figure who is out just to calmly and quietly steer the American ship of state through the waters of the 1950s. And you can get a real sense for kind of what Eisenhower was like. Somebody once said, that Eisenhower, he's a communist. And the response was, he's not a communist, he's a golfer. Eisenhower enjoyed playing golf and made no bones about taking plenty of time off from his duties as president to enjoy playing golf. He figured that the country was running itself pretty well without him interfering in all different ways, in all different places, and at all different times. That does not mean he did nothing. He turns back some of Truman's plans. He reduces military spending, helped out by the end of the Korean War. He transferred some oil-producing lands from the federal government back to the states. That's a very minor anti-New Deal, pro-federalist, pro-states' rights kind of thing. He encouraged private enterprise to compete with New Deal projects, but he did not get rid of the New Deal projects. He did not encourage the civil rights movement, but he did not fight it either. And when the civil rights were blatantly violated, or when southern states refused to follow court orders, Roosevelt sided with the side of civil rights, as in the integration of Central High School that we're going to see in the next section. And like we said, he is a kindly, grandfatherly type figure who is steering the United States through these turbulent but affluent times. His greatest domestic achievement was the creation of what's called the Eisenhower Interstate System. He didn't call it that, but it took his name. And this was a public works project larger than anything that the New Deal had ever even proposed. And at the cost of $27 billion, and you've all seen these. You've all seen these interstate highway signs, I am sure. that we live right near Interstate 95, Interstate 80, Interstate 78, Interstate 287, Interstate 278. And we recognize these signs. And as you learn how to drive, you're going to learn, where these signs all take you. All of those red, white, and blue shields are the Eisenhower interstate system, inaugurated and put into motion by President Eisenhower. And it cost $27 billion in the 1950s, and it laid down 42,000 miles of high-grade, high-efficiency, above-grade, limited access superhighways that stretched literally from sea to shining sea. That you could get off the George Washington Bridge at Route 80 here in Fort Lee, New Jersey, and take it right across the country to San Francisco without getting off the highway. You can travel from southern Texas all the way to the Canadian border without getting off the highway. You can travel from Miami to Maine without getting off the highway. What this does, it knits the country together like never before. That literally, you could start in New York and be in Chicago 12 hours later without having to leave the comfort of your own automobile. It's an incredible boon to commerce. People can now ship things quickly, cheaply, and efficiently anywhere in the country. That a long-haul trip from New York to San Francisco takes a trucker 4 days. And as the roads got better, the trucks got bigger, the trucks could carry more things, do so more efficiently in a more environmentally friendly way. Eisenhower also believed that this was necessary for national security. In the case of a Soviet attack, arms, men, ammunition supplies could be easily moved from any one place in the country to any other place in the country on these interstate highways. They even could be used as emergency landing strips for airplanes in times of war. The construction of these highways led to an incredible boom in so many different industries. First of all, you have to build 42,000 miles of road, and that's giving construction people jobs for years and years and years. But then the trucking industry grows, the automobile industry grows, the oil industry, the travel industry. You get the invention of the motel. Fast food restaurants proliferate. All of this economic activity that was created by the construction of all these roads. As everything, these roads had their critics. Critics said that it made the United States dull, that you could travel from New York to San Francisco and never see anything. And that's true. If you travel I-80 from New York to San Francisco, you could very easily do nothing but eat at McDonald's and stay at, a Red Roof Inn your entire way across. That you don't see any of the local color. That a truck stop or a rest stop in New Jersey on I-80 looks pretty much the same as a rest stop in Iowa, the same as a rest stop in Colorado, the same as a rest stop in California. And that's true. If you want to see the country, as someone who has done lots of road tripping himself, stay off the interstates. If you want to get something done quickly and efficiently, take the interstates. But if you want to see the country, you still got to take the old US highways. It destroys the railroads. The railroads that had been the pride and joy of American industry for 100 years were very, very quickly pretty much put out of business by the interstate highway system. That it's a lot cheaper to ship stuff by truck than it is to ship stuff by train, unless it is huge, bulky things. Coal, wheat still travels by train, but consumer goods now are traveling by truck. The American rails see a huge decrease in the amount of freight that they are carrying. Critics say it increases pollution. It makes people even more likely to leave the cities. That if I was a person living in Newark, And, you know, crime in Newark was getting a little bad, and the schools were kind of losing their edge in Newark. Having a highway that I could easily move my family out and then I could still commute back and forth leads to more people fleeing the cities for the suburbs because it's so easy to get back into the city. You hop on I-78 and you can be from central New Jersey into downtown Newark in 20 minutes. So it has its critics, but by and large the interstate highway system is one of the most economically successful public works in the history of the country, and it is the brainchild of General Eisenhower. That's his biggest domestic achievement. Another thing that Eisenhower did on the domestic front that we have to talk about now is what was called Operation Wetback. Operation Wetback is a deportation of about 1 million Mexicans. And if you remember from the World War II section, the Bracero program had been very successful in importing legal farm workers from Mexico into agricultural sections of the Southwest United States. But along with the Braceros came illegal immigrants from Mexico as well. The Mexican government did not like that in the 1950s. That when illegal immigrants came across, the Mexican government did not get the advantage of the Bracero program. So the Mexican government asked Eisenhower for help. And in an operation called Operation Wetback, about 1 million illegal immigrants were rounded up and sent back to Mexico. They were detained and then they were deported by the Eisenhower administration with the consent and appreciation of the Mexican government.